So, kicking things off, Ricardo and I will talk about the final season of Insecure. This is a show that we've been
Right.
following ever since it landed on HBO in 2016, right? We've been covering it actually throughout this throughout BSB to BD, right?
Yeah.
Highly praised season four. Yes, looking back at it, Molly, who is played by Yvonne Orji, yes, she did act entitled, towards Issa's character, Issa D. Well, sorry, Issa Rae's character, Issa D. Right? But watching it over again because I did a recap of this, it kind of makes sense why she was moving that way, though, because essentially, in a nutshell, she was just kind of jealous of how, or just couldn't wrap around the fact that Issa was just kind of moving forward in life, and Molly just kind of felt like she wasn't going anywhere, right? So what I will do, I'll just do like a quick run through of what this season here was, and Ricardo and I will share our quick thoughts on it, right? So following from that, right? So basically, Molly and her then boyfriend Andrew is no more now, so she's riding solo. Um, she has some issues basically going on with her mom. Her mom is sickly. That's all you'll see. Some work stuff going on as well too, but long story short, Issa and Molly are friends again, right? Which actually which actually caught me by surprise because I actually thought that this season here was going to spend some time showing how they kind of made back up now, but they make back up, so that's cool, right? But yeah, essentially this season is just showing how those two leads how they pretty much move on, right? Issa still has to deal with Lawrence. He'll be played by J. Ellis. I mean, they have had like this roller coaster of a relationship, you know what I mean? Earlier on, with the point of Issa cheating on him, for reasons, and now him actually hooking up and end up knocking up basically this new woman actually. I forgot the name right now. Oh, sorry, Condola.
Correct.
Um, yeah, knocking up, right? So yes, he's a father now, right? So, but at the same time, there's a little issue going on with him now because he feels left out now of wanting to be by his son Elijah, right? But they kind of work things out, right? Regardless, right? But still, Lawrence still has feelings for Issa, right? Even though Issa is trying her damnedest to move on now, she's actually hooking up with Nathan, who is played by Kendrick Sampson. But
Right.
if you remember, in the last season, he revealed that he was bipolar, which kind of explains why he is emotionally and physically distant from her, right? And that actually comes up later on in terms of just how he's trying to deal with this relationship with Issa, right? Like, he feels like, being friend zoned at some point, and then oftentimes he feels like, he's just there as emotional support, and that's it. He doesn't
Right.
really know how to make of this relationship, right? And yeah, essentially that's what it is, right? Also, we have fan favorites Kelly Prenny, who's played by the great Natasha Rothwell. There was a little thing setting up in terms of her having a podcast and her kind of warning about the end and all that kind of stuff. So she's going on some kind of spiritual route. I'll talk about that in a bit. And also Tiffany Dubois, played by McGill Amanda Seals, right? Which there was something in that though, which I thought this season was going to address, but they don't really address it though, and that was
Yes.
that was a, a, a
I thought they
letdown.
would address that, but it's whatever.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
can kind of understand.
yeah. But essentially, it's just Isan and Molly just kind of coming to terms with the fact that they're in their
Right.
thirties now, and they need
Yeah.
to move on with their lives. They need to progress and move forward, right? So Issa, with her successful block, which is a offshoot of the block party that she had last season now.
Right.
So she's trying to move forward with that now, so to bring more black artists in the LA region, what I mean, to the forefront basically. Molly with her job basically and where that might go, and yeah, that essentially is what's going on here. So Issa's dealing with that, but at the same time, it's this relationship, with Lawrence and Nathan, and just her trying to figure out which of the two she should, continue with, right? So yeah, Ricardo, what were your thoughts on this final season of Insecure?
Yeah. I really enjoyed it. A little bit rushed, and they did go the safe route that expected. I kind of expected them to do it, but yeah, they took the safe route, understandable. But for the most part, I really enjoyed it because they really stuck with the character stuff, and they stick with the core of the storyline, which is Molly and Issa. Yeah, the two of them, they're really a really fantastic, rocky, bumpy friendship, but they make it really really work. And especially nowadays, the idea of just two black women being friends and just seeing that conceit play itself out and do really really well. And then where they go with the storyline and who does what and why, and who goes through what and why in the context of the storyline. Make it decent amount of sense, even though that last 2 episodes was a little rushed, but still fine for the most part. I dug it for what it was. They really just make the character stuff work. And especially the character of Nathan, I really appreciated what they do with him. Again, people kind of, I know a lot of people vexed about what happened with his character, but it's fine. It's good. They have a lot of great. This season seems to focus a lot on other characters more. I thought they make that work pretty well for what it was. So, Lawrence have a whole episode, and it's kind of brutal.
It is, yeah.
Yeah. And then they give enough Molly stuff. They have other characters do their thing, and they make it work for what it is, and have it play out in terms of the good direction, the storytelling. And I really appreciated it for doing all of this. And yeah, it come back with what they're doing. And then that final shot, it take me a while to get the significance of it. I like, oh, that's why it was done like that. It's good.
Yeah, me too. Like as you bring up that, like I was thinking about like, wait, this is how they edit, and then when I thought about it a little bit, it's like, oh
right.
Yeah, right. Okay,
right.
I feel you.
Yeah. I was like, yeah, and they make it work for the ending. There's a reason why it's, well, you could say Insecure has ended. That's the metaphor, I suppose, right? Yeah, and it's just solid character work. I really happy that the show ends off in a great way. It's not a masterpiece ending like, say, something like 6 Feet Under or anything like that, but it's still a great show. Good ending from start to finish, and it just tells a really decent humanistic story with Black people and the Black American experience, especially for millennials. They make it work. I'm excited to see what Risa would be up to going forward, and well, all of the cast members. I thought they made it. They did just this solid world building and build up a good, fantastic, and interesting space and characterization. So solid business to me. I suppose you could go on and I'll give him a rating.
Right. Yeah, Ricardo, I agree with you for the most part, man. Just to get a couple of flaws out of the way, though. I felt that they could have tackled, Tiffany's postnatal issue a little bit more, because that was
right.
that took up a huge chunk of the season 4 finale, right?
Right.
And it just kind of glosses it over. Like, there's just one moment when they mentioned it. This is where literally the gang was together, but I thought that they were going to explore it a little bit more, especially with what happens to her in the final episode. But it's just like, well, I guess it's something that she had to deal with. But
she just move on. Like, they gloss over it. That's true.
Right. And then also they were setting up this sort of weird subplot with Kelly supposedly dead. How the setup of it is hilarious, by the way. But I noticed that there were these hints of, okay, well, maybe she might kick the bucket. Maybe, even in that same episode that I mentioned where, Tiffany kind of mentions whatever, right? They kind of hinted it early that, oh, wait, maybe something might happen to her. But it doesn't really happen, though. So it's just like, well, what going on there? Because even from like the premiere, it just kind of set up like, okay, something is going to happen. Right. Maybe it's changed overall, I guess, but it came up a little like dark. They're like, oh, well, something bad's going to happen. But
well, yeah, because I thought it was going to hit us what do you call it, boy? A Scrubs, no? Remember Scrubs had that episode where you're talking to a character, then you think, the character alive and then the character really dead. Right. I thought he was going to do something like that. But no, it's more her character. And the problem is that because her character is almost entirely played for laughs, it was kind of hard to, like, she's not close to anybody per se. So she's bounced around a lot now. But what they do with her is fine, ultimately. I was like, it's fine. Yeah. Again, still the safe route, but fine.
True. And as far as where these characters end up, though, I was pleased. I was thoroughly pleased. A few of which is just like, well, it had to happen. You know what I mean? Especially with Molly. Right. Who she ends up with. That's what you'll say.
I find that make perfect sense, but it's like
agree. Totally agree. It's just like, well, wow, like this person, slight spoiler, was right in front of your face all this time, and it's like, well, you know what I mean? Speaking of Molly, though, just another gripe with her, there is the issue with her mom, which I felt like they just kind of breezed through.
I really thought that would have been the locus of it. Like,
they could have just given us like a few minutes of how she felt in that moment, but it just kind of moves on to another character. Like,
but they just jump, because the whole point was everybody birthday, and they just keep jumping. I was like, all right, well, I feel a little rushed because I thought they'd just keep center focus on Molly and Issa, and having that last set of Issa being there for Molly, Molly being there for Issa thing now. And we get that at the end, we still get it because that final conversation with Molly and Issa is excellent. Right?
Agreed.
Really genuinely touching. They make it work. But I really thought they would have given a little more focus on that conceit. Because really, to be honest, I just wanted to, slight spoiler, I really thought we would have seen a funeral. Right? So it would have been a funeral, then a wedding. Like, I thought we would have gotten that, but we didn't get to see that. It's just jump, right? Jump. They just jump, and they cut and they jump. Like, all right, I still would have, again, cut this a little differently, but fine. It's not a big deal for me. Because still, you get across what is needed to get across.
Right.
What it was, yeah.
Agreed, yeah. Also, what I would say about this season, though, just to get the positives, is that it really does, breeze through rather quickly, though. I really took note of how relatively short these episodes were, right?
Yeah, right. Which is good.
At like 25 minutes.
Because I felt a lot of the pacing was excellent for these episodes. Like,
yes, agreed.
Boom, 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 and they tell a thing, move on, tell a story, focus on a character, and then they cut it up smart. So all of it was great until those last 2 episodes, and then it's like, all right, it feel a little too fast. So I don't know.
Yeah. Even though the finale is like 40 minutes.
40 minutes,
it still moves like really quickly. Though.
Really quick. I really thought they could have do one more episode, to be honest, and as a true finale and then thing. But like, it's fine. They do it. I don't have a problem with any of that. Yeah. Right.
Because they had to do the 10 thing. Well, I mean, the first 3 episodes were 8, but this one, the last one was 10, right?
Right.
Right. So, I really dug, just how easy it was to just binge through it. 'Cause that's why I did. I just binge through the whole season, right? Also, I like how they brought back the whole the visual insecurity of Issa Rae's character, though. Yep. This is particularly one moment that comes from this big crucial reveal, right, in the hospital. How that plays out is one of the funniest things I have seen this whole series. I rewind that shit like 3 times by my God.
I think I know what you're talking about, and they follow it up with in my opinion, even funnier bit. So.
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Right, but yeah, because there's just one funny moment where she said, "Why $1 billion a month?" That was just hilarious. I had to be cracking up. But there's a joke with that because I swear they borrow from a meme. There's a very popular meme with a basketball and a baby. And that is like a straight up, like I feel a steal from that, but what they do with the bit is really funny and they make it work.
It is.
But yeah, I just, everything about it makes sense because like, yeah, that not, no way he's have any kind of confidence to pull this off. Total dream. And then, yeah, exactly what happened. And then the part where the food place was just like equally as funny. That $1 billion a month had me cracking up, John. But yeah, that's why the show works. So like it's still, I like back in the days, I was a very big fan of Living Single, right? In my opinion, still a truly fantastic comedy, fantastic sitcom.
Theme song is fire.
Still fire. Yeah, still fire. But yeah, and it was one of the rare shows that did basically a black female centric show that feels plausible and a relatively intelligent conceit and characterization. And then the show didn't really, from since then we didn't get a show like that where it really balanced comedy and the drama well. In my opinion, that show did that. You had Girlfriends, which didn't really have the drama, in my opinion. Like
right. I did not watch because I wasn't on the UPN bandwagon. Right.
Well, it was. I wasn't a super fan of it, but I was familiar enough with it to know that I never got any big drama moments. Like some fan of Girlfriends could link to me, and I shall go find it online. Where look at this great moment with this character, but I never got that. To me, it was almost entirely comedy. It was just, black people, attractive black people, and they're wealthy, but they have problems still. And they make it work. This show, I think, absolutely nails it. Like, just that perfect balance of comedy and drama, awkwardness. Yes. They really built from the awkward black girl thing. I wasn't the biggest fan of her back in her YouTube days.
Right. I might as well say it here one time. I didn't even know about that till Insecure dropped in her.
Okay, right. Yeah. I was reasonably familiar with her. Just being familiar with black talent and upcoming talent in general. And her show was like one of the funniest. She was like, yeah, this girl coming up, right? Because at the time it was her and Donald Glover, like had their online stuff now. And yeah, I was so when that show would blow up, and then when she got Insecure, and then when I heard Larry Wilmore was on board, I was like, all right, well, boom, this will be a great show. HBO just give a lot of black thing to black. Oh, speaking of that, after this, I'll just give a super quick review to a new show that up and coming. that kind of related to the show, not really, but kind of related. But yeah, they make it work for it is. Oh, quick joke thing is that is her sister, Galanda's sister, is Kiki Palmer.
I was watching that face though.
Yes, Kiki Palmer. I like, well, we did a quick little guest star. That's funny and real cool. But yeah, just quick last point and then rating.
Yeah, sure.
I really strongly appreciated the show for what it was. It did such a great job of basically, just appealing to the millennial aesthetic and time. Very few shows have done that in any workable sense, in my opinion. It always feels like we had a lot of big focus on Gen X, and then we started to see Gen Z content. That I never felt it had any big super great landmark show that gets into the aesthetics and the emotions and the feelings of what a generation, a millennial generation was going through and how it's, especially Black millennials. And she just absolutely hit the nail on the head with the material. In terms of aesthetics, it does still have that Gen X feel to everything in the sense that mostly is because of Larry Wilmore and his style and what he has selected for the nature of the show, because the show has not been the most progressive, not regressive or anything like that, but it could have done a slightly better job in something like maybe LGBTQ representation or something like that.
That's true, because I think technically we only have one gay character, and that would be
that
would be Issa's brother, right?
Right, and he's a joke character, right? He's a joke character. It's just joke bits.
I was picking at Kelly for some reason.
right, yeah. But they could have done most of it, try to do a little more of that and just I would feel a little more modern in that sense. But whatever, it's fine. The show caters to still the girlfriend generation of storytelling. And it's not like it's HBO is this big show to, be some kind of regressive network or anything like that. But no, I felt they could have just a little bit more on that. That is about it. Not the biggest deal, but they could have done a little more. But yeah, I really, really like the show. The core of the conceit of Molly and Issa, that's why it works. It's really, really excellent in that sense. They just kept it in that direction. Like everybody's still saying, oh, they had a focus on Molly and Lawrence. No, sorry, Issa and Lawrence. But no, it's really Molly and Issa and that relationship. That's the core. And they make that work. They keep it, and that's the entire series. Ratings for the entire series. I'll say like an 8 out of 10. Like the entire series, I really, really liked it. I really appreciate it. For this season, 9 out of 10. I really, really like what the season did and how it played itself out and in the total conceit. Again, the only thing is the finale could have just been a little more fleshed out. Didn't break the show or anything like that, but I still wanted it to pace out a little more. But yeah, I really, really thoroughly loved it. You need to protect Issa Rae at all costs, right? I really, really excited to see what else she's gonna give us in terms of production talent, like not just her work alone, but just if she producing something, and the mere fact that she has such an excellent eye for aesthetic and what to look for in terms of young people and that kind of culture. So what we're gonna get going forward, we don't know, right? But I'm really excited for anything that she's giving us in the future. Even the other actors and characters, they have a future as well. Yvonne Orji. She I think she has a stand-up and she has I think some music stuff she's doing, I think, as well. So yeah, hopefully she might have a great future. After this, after your rating, I'll just give the quick rating to the other show I want to talk about quick. Because that'll be a show that I might be invested in going forward for the next year. So yeah, that's me. 8 out of 10 for the whole series, 9 out of 10 for this season.
All right. Well, I was actually going to rate the whole series at the very end, right? But yeah, I do agree with you for the most part. This is just a solid show true and true, though. Just likable characters throughout, man, and how it just touches on just the millennial experience, the Black American millennial experience, right? It is a life. Just that middle upper class life that I do wish I do want to be a part of, because these folks hit restaurants and concerts and always drinking wine and champagne when you go home. It's like that's the kind of life I want to live there. But then again, we have like these real big ass jobs. Like Lawrence is a coder, right? He works at this company, and it's like all these big jobs there, but at the same time as the lifestyle that you want to live, right? And also, I had to mention to the music perfectly captures that, right? Raphael Sadiq, him from 2020 Tone, if you know, right? coming through with just these low key, down tempo, really smooth, really like laid back R&B music to it. And then also have to give this show as a whole credit for just touching on like up and coming artists, especially in R&B and hip hop, and just giving them moments to shine, right? Like every so often you'll hear like a big artist like this rounds you heard Vince Staples, you actually even heard some old like 2000 songs. You heard Mike Jones back then, you know what I mean,
Right.
and a couple of John Legend songs and whatnot, right? So yeah, it just kind of touches on just just that Gen X experience, you know what I mean? But really at the heart of it all, like you say, it's Molly and Issa, right? Issa and Yvonne Orji, I mean, they're just fantastic on screen, great screen presence, and they just have that chemistry together, right? And just seeing what they went through over the course of 5 seasons, though, I mean, wow, and where it all comes together is great, right? And I forget to mention one last thing though. I have to give credit where credit is due. This fifth season really pulled it off in terms of making us feel as if COVID didn't happen,
For real.
Swear to God. Can you just mention one thing with, wow, this year being rough as it is, right? But then when you think about it, it's like, oh, they talk about Black Lives Matter, they don't talk about COVID. Because, yeah, literally this whole show, you wouldn't even know there was a pandemic. There's actually an episode that starts off on a beach. And it's just populated. You're like, wow, how the hell they filmed this?
The reason they leave the beaches is a LA reason, not because of anything. Yeah.
It's just an early reason, though. Wow, I have to get a credit where credit is due, man. So yeah, I mean, well filmed, well written, really like solid, very real dialogue, I must say, though, and it just balances, the drama and the comedy very well, man. So show as a whole gets a strong 4 out of 5, absolute recommendation. This final season, I'm also going with a strong 4 out of 5, man. And just letting you all know, this is going to be in my top 10 best TV shows list for sure. This final season here. All right, so Ricardo, just let us know what this new upcoming show is.
Yes, well, not really upcoming show. It had its premiere, and I should have reviewed it, but I forget. I had something to do, and I just ended up slipping in my mind. But kind of related. Well, Black Comedy Sketch Show was on HBO.
I missed that one. Yeah.
Right. But the show I'm talking about is the new baby from Quinta B, Quinta Brunson herself. She was absolutely hilarious in that Thundercat video. Remember that? The Dragon Ball Durag.
Of course. Which, by the way, is one of Tracy's favorite songs and videos.
Yes.
Right? Yeah, of course.
Yeah, one of my favorites of the year too.
But right, so she has a new show called Abbott Elementary, and I
saw the trailer for that. That looked really, really dope, though.
And it's great. I didn't expect it to be as funny as it was. It does basically the cinema, the verity approach to a working class life, right? A la The Office, or maybe Parks and Rec, right? It's that, and the conceit is that it's just a documentary crew trying to go through basically a downtrodden high school in it's Chicago or Philadelphia. I forget which city it is exactly. But yeah, it's just them catching their ass in this school, and that's the whole thing. And it's just her just being in this mess of a situation about the school just downplay all the teachers, and she having to just go through all of the pathologies of public life and public school life, and just lack of funds. And they really get into these concepts of the show. And your boy from Everybody Creates Chris, he in this too, as they're the two leads, and they're making it work.
Chris himself, Tyler.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, that's cool. Oh, by the way, I made a mistake with the Thundercat thing. It actually came out last year. Oops, my bad. But the song still bops, right? So whatever.
Yeah, no, it's a classic.
I still play it up to today, so
Yeah, and I'm just really excited for the show for what it is. I really hope it does well in terms of ratings and whatever it is. But I just like it in terms of it's just really class conscious. That's what I like about it so much. It's like, oh wow, they actually like addressed this in a mainstream show. Like I didn't expect them to do that. Like Parks and Rec did a lot of that too. But to see it from a particularly racialized perspective is quite impressive. So I dig in it for what it is. So that is a show to look out for, and I should have reviewed it when it came out. So just a kind of quick lead review to that. How's about it?
Okay. Well, thanks so much for the recommendation, man, for sure. All right, so moving now, just stick with TV a little bit longer now. The Book of Boba Fett, boy.
Yeah.
Chapter 1, verse 1, as I call it, came out today at the time it's recording here. So that would be Chapter 1, Stranger in a Strange Land, right? So we just like I just let your guys. I was just like we had to talk about this on the day itself because
Sure.
this is where we're recording the final episode, right? But yeah. So before Ricardo, you just get into like just what the episode is about. Um, we all were surprised at the very end of the second season of Mandalorian, where we got that big announcement in the show that the Book of Boba Fett is coming, right? And then we were even more excited to hear that the first episode was dropping on December 29th. So like, oh shit, right, cool, right? So they're gonna do this weekly thing again, similar to Mandalorian, but we're gonna get 7 episodes, right? So the last one will air on February the 9th of 2022, right? But Ricardo, take it away. What was this episode about in a nutshell?
At the end of Return of the Jedi, they show it. They show how, and they basically just focus on his him he gaining power through him taking over from Bib Fortuna. I want to say, who took over from Jabba.
It's from him. It's from him, sir.
Right, and yeah, it's just him and Fennec, right, played by McGill. Ming-Na-Wen, the two of them basically engaging in statecraft for the area, right? They're the new boss, right? And they kind of want to go out of their way to say not same as the old boss, right? He wants to rule by respect instead of fear, and he's setting up that conceit. And then they set up a small mystery involving the Bacta tank, like it's implied that something wrong with him, kind of sick maybe, not sure what's going on there. That's about it. That's my quick run through the episode. My quick review. It's solid. Right, not as polished as Mandalorian, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's almost immediately noticeable. Things feel a bit too small and stagey at times. For me, like they had those Boston Dynamic dog robots walking about as in the set, and it clearly is like Boston Dynamic dog robots. I didn't feel like something that like a puppeteering team or within the universe of Star Wars. I don't know if it's because I just too accustomed to knowing what modern robotics is like. But that just kind of take me out of seeing them walking
It's probably
around.
that.
Yeah. It kind of take me out of it a little bit, just seeing them walking around for just that one shot in the set. Now, it just feel like a set. Like, oh, we need to just get 2 or 3 Boston Dynamic robotic robots to bounce around, and that'll be a thing. But that's about it. Gwen and Morrison have great chemistry. The two of them bouncing off each other. The action could do a little work, but whatever. It's our first episode. It's fine. I wasn't loving that some of the action sequences really. But it was fine. It's like, yeah, it's standard stuff. It only have one kick-ass moment involving a rocket, which is like, geez, boy, brutal. But it make it work. But that's about it. Nothing major. Just for our first episode, I'll give it like a quick 7 out of 10, maybe a 6, closer to a 6 to be honest. It didn't really impress me, but it just like, okay, it's our first episode. It's fine. Like I didn't. But it nowhere near as cool as what Mandalorian first episode was. Like that first episode of Mandalorian, like come out of the gate running now. This didn't do that for me. But it's still pretty decent. Solid business. It's fine.
Right. Well, I will save my thoughts on this episode for last, right? CC, if you saw the episode, what did you think about it?
I haven't. We're actually watching it. I would have watched it like the second it dropped. My partner works today, and we're watching it this evening. I've been hyped for this, not only since they announced it, but since they announced that Robert Rodriguez would be helming it, like this would be his show, right. Because his episode of The Mandalorian kicked
of course, which introduced Boba. Well, sorry, reintroduced Boba. Sorry.
He directed this first episode. So yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, and like I've been very much here for Robert Rodriguez return from, I don't know, like hibernation or whatever it was, like first with Alita Battle Angel and then his involvement in The Mandalorian and then now Book of Boba Fett. So no, I'm watching it tonight and I am excited. Like cautiously optimistic because, right. Star Wars content is generally hit or miss as a general rule, even before the Disney purchase, but we shall see, But I am hyped, especially with Rodriguez's name attached.
All right. Well, Tracy, then, what were your thoughts on this premiere?
I thoroughly enjoyed it. There was the beginning of it, without spoiling anything, the beginning of it to see him being digested, and that for me was like both gross and at the same point in time, it was like, yes, this feels. What I think it feels like, what Boba Fett feels like, is like that raw old Star Wars kind of quality to it. So in terms of Ricardo, when you mentioned the idea of it not being polished, like for me, like I was like, yes, but then that also works for it, because with Rodriguez and Favreau and Filoni, they have that the original trilogy head kind of vibe. So like that kind of world and that grit and it's Tatooine for crying out loud.
You know you're gonna save money if it's Rodriguez, right?
Yeah.
I know, right?
They're going cheapest goddamn filmmakers out there, right?
Listen.
Yeah.
So for me, I looked at it and I quite liked it. I will agree, like there were parts of it, in terms of the action, I was just like, why is Ming-Na not, why is Fennec not just kicking his ass completely?
Right.
But I know that will set up. I will say one of the things outside of the TV series that I am pleasantly surprised about is just being on Twitter, not seeing the usual rah 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 rah, because once Star Wars comes in, I am a big member of the Star Wars. Well, I don't know if I should say big, but I'm a member of the Star Wars fan base, and I gotta tell you, I reached a point where I just like, I've had enough of all your shit talk. Let's just enjoy things or don't enjoy things and move on. And I was glad to not have to see that rah-rah. Solid start for me. I like it. It was good. I did see one person say maybe they should have done what they do with Marvel in that release the first 2 episodes, and I'm contemplating in my head maybe that could have been a thing. But outside of that, even self, I quite enjoyed it. And Matthew, I saw you saying something about the trap remix. I completely agree with you. Yeah. I give it about a week before somebody online, J Squad or somebody, goes and does a trap remix to that theme. That would be hilarious.
Yeah. So speaking of team though, I was just so happy hearing Ludwig Göransson's music throughout this. Like I just instantly knew it was him, right? And it's not just because it's fallen off from the Mandalorian, but he just has a way to. And right now, just letting you all know, he is one of my top favorite film composers these days. It's just how he makes your typical film score, right? Audacious and just exciting and giving you goosebumps. But at the same time, he always does something a little bit more experimental, some little left field, some little bit like he'll incorporate a little bit of hip hop, a little bit of trap in it, right? So like when I was hearing the music, I was getting like like Basil, I forget the guy's name. A little bit of Conan the Barbarian, a little bit of Ennio Morricone with the Dulles trilogy. So just drawing from those old elements as well too, boy. But when that main team hits when you see the credits, I was like, yeah, this song had this needs a trap remix, this needs a rap remix ASAP though, because I don't know, something about that theme song just gets your blood pumping though. You know what I mean? It just so exciting, right? About this episode though, yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it as well. Some people were saying online it starts off a little slow and whatnot, right? But I think the reason behind it though is, the reason, is that we kind of establishing Boba as this. I was watching it, but I like instantly I was thinking Godfather, right? I love how they call him Damn You. I love that. I was like, yeah, that's so Star Wars. Yeah, I love that. Right? But yeah, I love these sort of Godfather-esque kind of vibe he was going forward. People bringing him all these, tributes and all that kind of stuff now. Right. And while I was watching this thing, I was instantly thought about that gangster. Always thinking about Ghetto Boy's classic hit, "Damn It Feels Good to Be a Gangster." Because yeah, that is exactly what Boba is though. He's just like a gangster right now. It's like, yeah, respect me, and if you don't respect me, well, what could go down, right? I love that, right? I do wish that we got a bigger setup as far as what the main conceit of the story is. It's just like, okay, he's just trying to figure out his way. He's filling into his boots a little bit now, but it have people who want to kill him, as we see what happens here. And the fights was okay though. Just a little rough around here, just as far as the the shot composition goes. But I do like the chase that follows though, with the bad guys and Fennec. Well, the character of Fennec, right? Once again, played by Ming-Na Wen, right? One thing though, they use what I'm gonna call a flashback device. That's all I'll call it, though. And I don't know, for some reason, I was reminded of Kung Fu, the series, more particularly Kung Fu, The Legend Continues, right? Where we have to rely on flashbacks to tell you why this character is who he is. We could do that, right? And props for actually showing what happened after the end of Return of the Jedi. I was like, yeah, thank you for showing us what happened, right? And I actually was digging where that story was going, and I was hoping that we would have seen that whole story play out, and then eventually we would see him become, daimyo, right? But instead, it kind of cuts back and forth. I think that's the reason why some people find it to be slow, right, in terms of the episode itself, right? I do hope that they don't use this, narrative device a lot, though. But what I'll say without spoiling it, it does have me a little concern as to the longevity, quote unquote, of Boba himself, though, because
Right.
once you see him in that device, I was just like, well, all right, something is up here.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's gonna last. He's only human and he's not young, but a little concern here. Will he survive this season? I hope so. But
Yeah.
who knows? Maybe they might do some dread and actually kill him off. Hopefully not, right? Knock on wood.
Well, I mean, not given the fact that the other Bacta tank guy had the Force, but I mean, he's been sleeping on a Bacta tank for about 30 years. That's Vader, from since he was burnt, in basically his 20s to the time that he, meets up with Luke at the end of Return of the Jedi. He's had to do the Bacta tank treatments in order to be fine. So I feel like it might be one of those, like, you're constantly on pills kind of something. So I don't see him dying, but I do see that being an impediment because he, for reasons that we won't go into because spoilers. But I could see that being a thing long term.
Yeah, agreed. But yeah, this was a solid opening to this show here. I do agree with you, Ricardo. It's not as grand and just kicking through the door basically like how Mandalorian was, but in terms of like just bringing us back into the world and giving us a slightly darker story in this universe. So this actually delivered though. And once again, props to Louis Goranson for actually coming through with both this triumphant but also pretty dark score for this as well, right? Of course, Tamura Morrison, he shines as Boba Fett though, or as we'll call him, Lord Boba Fett. You know what I mean? But I'm really curious to see where his story goes, man. So yeah, I'm excited, man. I'm excited.
Oh yeah.
The thing is that we had it's the rehabilitation of characters like Boba Fett. It's characters that never really lived up all that much on screen, and everybody say their bars. All the fan base always say their badasses. The extended universe kind of non-canon-y people say he's a badass. He show up as a badass in some game, but we never had actual canon material until the Mandalorian showing he's a true badass. And then we get in this too. So it's like, all right, cool. We got chats. So I agree. It's like, the rehabilitation of Boba Fett among the fans.
Well,
and look, a whole heap of the fan base chomping at the bit to get some good material, and with a straight face, with sheer ignorance and a straight face, tell you how Kathleen Kennedy could never do something this great. She make this too. You could stop.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm so tired of the bloody Kathleen Kennedy debate. It's almost as if
it's not a debate. There's no debate. It's just nonsense.
It's so much shit. No,
there's a whole gang of YouTubers who have turned trying to predict when she's going to be fired as a cottage industry.
And
it's pretty much.
It's
really.
And like every time their predictions are wrong, they always like slink into a corner and wait to make another one. And I'm always like, who do you think got Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau talking in the first place? Like literally, both of them have said that Jon Favreau had the idea for the Mandalorian, and then Kennedy put him in touch with Dave Filoni, and the two of them co-developed it from there. You can't pretend that this sprung fully formed from their head or something like that. Like, come on, people.
The last piece of nonsense was, I remember when Kevin Feige was talking with them, and they said, "Oh, so here's what's going to happen. She's going to resign. She's going to get fired. Kevin is going to leave Marvel and put it in the hands of one of the other members and go." And I was like, "Oh, for fuck's sake!" So that has been my for fuck's sake for the longest while.
Well, some of the conspiracy theories they come up with, like my favorite is still that there's a secret George Lucas cut of Rise of Skywalker, and I'm like, I have
really
no idea where you even pulled this from. But no, what you were saying about the rehabilitation of fan characters, I think that's one of the things that Robert Rodriguez pulled off with his episode of season 2. Because let's be honest, Boba Fett is one of those characters where there's a lot of hype in the fan base, but outside of the fan base, they're like, what? You mean that extra who gets like 2 lines in the... Like, Boba Fett has more lines in the Star Wars Holiday Special than he does in the original trilogy.
Right.
And so Robert Rodriguez has to sell people who aren't familiar with the EU stuff.
Right.
Tell them that this guy is actually a badass, and he somehow pulls it off. My big concern is if he's going to maintain that for an entire show while also making the character human, because let's be honest, it's very easy to make a character badass, but if you do that without adding any humanity or any actual drama to them, it just kind of gets hollow very quickly. Yeah. So I'm excited though, because Rodriguez, especially I was thinking about Alita again, and how that is a film that you get the badass, but you do get a genuine sense of very anime pathos at times with that, and so I trust Rodriguez to be able to balance those elements out. I'm watching tonight, and I'm so excited for this. But yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, one more thing. So I just kind of stumbled this on Facebook. Apparently, the main villain of this show, which has not been revealed, is probably hinted at in the theme song that I mentioned, needs a trap remix. Oh. I'm not going to say anything beyond that, though I'll read about it later, but I'm just like, okay, so some kind of deep cut there that Ludwig doing here. All right, okay, we'll see how that plays out. But yeah, just I want to harp on the song one last time. Yeah, the song slaps, though. This is going to be a new ringtone. Or if not, at least this is going to be your jogging song, right? Or whatever it is. But yeah. This song slaps, though. I can't say that enough. But yeah. All right, and final movie that we're going to be reviewing here, kind of on this season here of BBB Radio, Don't Look Up, right? This is the newest film from Adam McKay, which, just letting you know, I'm not the biggest fan of Adam McKay, though. I do like how he, touches on certain things, and I mean, like I actually really, really dug The Big Short. Vice, right, which Ricardo and I reviewed, and that's so much. I felt it was more style, and the substance just didn't click with me. I think that's always the issue with me, is that it's always about American politics and whatnot. So for me, not being American, it's like, well, all right, well, okay, but you go in at it real hard, I'm supposed to know all this and see the irony behind it. But I'm just like, well, yeah, it's ironic, but just doesn't do anything for me, right? Yeah. But anyway, so yeah, so Don't Look Up, right? So I'll do the synopsis of this, right? So we start off now with Kate Dibiasky, who is played by Jennifer Lawrence, right? She and her superior, she is in this astronomy, basically part of the Michigan State University astronomy group, right? So her professor, Dr. Randall Mindy, who is played by Leonardo DiCaprio, obviously last time we saw him, right? They work together, right? So one day Kate discovers, there's a comet, right? And she tells, Randall about it, right? And look at it, and then they do all the calculations, like, oh shit, this comet is going to hit, well, actually comet/meteor or whatever, is going to hit Earth in exactly 6 months, right? And it will be like this, this apocalyptic event, the whole world could be destroyed, because of this thing, right? So they decide right off the bat that they're gonna, just spread the wordness. So they, through some circumstances, they go to the White House. They run into the president, who is played, ironically enough, by Meryl Streep, right? She plays Jeannie Orlean, right? And by the way, I forgot to mention the chief of staff is played by Jonah Hill, because why not, right?
Right.
His son, right? And what the show sets up at this point is just how people either don't want to hear when bad things are happening, like hear bad news, or try to sugarcoat it or laugh it off in such a way that, there's just like, well, that's only 6 months from now, and don't worry, you'll be okay, and we'll figure something out, man. What are you worried about, right? And this trips off, this trips off Jennifer Lawrence's character to the point that, she is just wearing down. She's, constantly crying and all that kind of stuff, right? But when it comes to, Randall now, meaning he's just like, yo, we still have to let the world know about this, right? So he winds up going, well, both of them wind up going onto this not talk show, sorry, this news
Yeah.
program called
News
the BBB,
program
right?
is an MSNBC type news program. Yeah.
Right, exactly right. Which is hosted by Tyler Perry of all people,
Right.
and almost like I was shocked when I see who was playing this character though, Kate Blanchett.
Yeah.
I'm like, holy shit, how she pull off that accent though? Because she sounds pure American. You like, I had to look close, like, holy shit, that's Kate
Yeah,
Blanchett.
it's in the same. The show is in the same vein as like Morning Joe or something like that. It's
Yes, exactly. And you see, this is why Kate Blanchett is one of my favorite, actors right now, because she just, like, she's a chameleon in my eyes, Jed. She could just immerse herself in a role, and you had to look really close, like, oh shit, that's you, right? But yeah, long story short, now we just have this apocalyptic event, that the clock is winding down, and you're just seeing how that's that how it's getting to both Kate and Randall's psyche, but you're also seeing how the rest of the country is dealing with it, right? And in true Adam McKay style, we have to see the political side of it. Of course, some people are skeptical about it, right? And Jeannie kind of spins it in this sort of way because it has to do with a scandal that she just kind of want to brush away now. You know what I mean? So she's trying to use this as a way to get the people back in her graces now. There's even a "Don't Look Up" hashtag that takes place. To be that they have people who just like, yeah, the government doesn't want us to know and all that kind of stuff there. And there's even like this subplot involving Ariana Grande, who does not play herself, of course, and her ex, who is played by Kid Cudi of all people,
right.
and is how it works into the story, right? So it's this satire, but modern contemporary satire on just how we treat just apocalyptic and life-threatening events, right? And surprise, surprise. I mean, well, maybe it's not a surprise to you guys, but the comet is a metaphor for COVID. That's why.
Right.
You can't say COVID, right?
Oh, wait, you can say climate
Not
change.
really, yeah. But we'll talk about that in a little bit.
It's not
Well,
metaphor.
climate. I more see it as COVID, but it could be climate change too, right? But yeah,
Right.
especially because I kind of saw it as, oh well, this is how like Trump's response to COVID, in 2020. Could be, right? I could be wrong, right? But before I get to my honest thoughts on it, by Cece, take it away. Did you see Don't Look Up?
See, I haven't. I have not seen a single Adam McKay film, and I see no reason to change that at this point in time. I'm just really...
Tell us why.
Okay, well, his early stuff never really appealed to me, and, then I am kind of jaded at this weird trend of very low-quality comedy directors deciding to reinvent themselves as political satirists.
Right. Yeah.
It's so because first we had half the Farley brothers doing Green Book and that nonsense, and then we had
Ricardo's favorite movie, Green Book.
and then we had Todd Phillips thinking he could switch gears from The Hangover to Living in a Society, and both of those were such hollow exercises that got such bad, I don't know, the praise they both received always felt so hollow and so
rubbish.
Just I was like what are you every time, especially with something like Joker, I'm always like, what are you talking about? Why are you standing up and clapping and applauding this? And don't even get me started on Green Book's Oscar. So when Adam McKay comes out with what's basically, hey, I watched Dr. Strangelove and decided to do it for
I'm gonna bring up Dr. Strangelove. I'm gonna bring that up
for modern times. It's I was watching the trailers, even I saw the trailer because I was like, okay, maybe this will be the Adam McKay movie that I will start with. And then I watched the trailer and I was like, you know what? No. Because when I tell you, I didn't laugh once watching that trailer. I'm sitting there with the stone-faced expression you can think of, and is this it? Is this the social? Is this the social satire? And it's not. To be clear, it's not these events are too recent to satirize, because on the contrary, I think that if you're a premise like this is the perfect time to make it, because I feel like what we all need collectively is some kind of cathartic satire that allow us to look at the absurdity of the situation and laugh about it a little bit. Like, that's what Doctor Strangelove was. Like, that movie came out at the height of the Cold War, and the whole idea of like nuclear apocalypse and the idea we could all blast ourselves into oblivion was very much there, and that movie still holds up because like it's shocking how much of Doctor Strangelove is still relevant. But like with Don't Look Up, especially, and then more recently, there's been such a wave of people trying to be like, this movie is important. And I'm like, oh, now we are reliving the Green Book Joker discourse all over again. Like, it's become, yet again, now people are trying to argue this movie is important. And it's like, this is the film we need right now. And I'm just, the more everyone argues about it and the more opinions pile up on both sides, I just get so tired, especially since so many of these people who are praising this as like a groundbreaking political satire. I'm like, have you never seen any other movie ever that talks about politics? Like, Paul Verhoeven is probably, like, if you gave this premise to someone like Paul Verhoeven, you'd have, like, then I would probably watch it, because then I know that it would be funny, and I'd be sitting there going, like you ever watch something like RoboCop, where you have those jokes where you laugh and then immediately realize that the thing you're laughing about is actually quite fucked up, and you're like, oh. Like those kinds of like weird laughs. And then you get something like Heathers, which is also a brilliant social satire.
I love Heathers.
Oh,
I love that.
Heathers is a masterpiece, and Heathers has actually aged even better. It's like it's a movie that went from talking about a mildly taboo subject to talking about a subject that we haven't talked about since, because it's so taboo to talk about, especially in the States, which is why there's been this like weird recoiling from Heathers. But I'm like, the movie isn't saying that like school shootings are trivial. It's saying that the response to them is always misguided and off base and quite absurd and farcical. So there, you can pull off a pitch black social satire film based on contemporary events. But there was something about the brand of humor that felt very like, I don't know if, again, this was just, I don't know how many of my observations just from the trailer are going to turn out to be true about the film. I'll leave that to you guys who've actually seen it to say. But one thing that bothered me about the trailer was it felt very mean-spirited, but not about, like, it wasn't like, yeah, it was laughing at the political figures, but there was a certain element of feeling a little mean-spirited at the people. Like, it felt like the people not taking this crisis seriously were also the butt of a lot of the jokes. And I'm like, that's a weird thing to say. Like when you're talking about systemic issues, blaming the population and taking it out on it and saying like, you're all idiots is a very odd approach to handling this subject matter. And then the only other thing is that, like, I don't know, there just felt like there was a lot of obvious humor, like a lot of like even in the trailer, like, just like, what is the most obvious joke we can go with here? Like, isn't it funny watching two hysterical scientists get more and more upset and everyone else act like smiling robots? Like, I don't know. Solo, I took one look at the trailer and decided this was not going to be the Adam McKay film to change my mind. Or that I would start with.
Right. Well, Tracy, we'll save you for last because you'll just tell us how wrong we are, right? Well, I'll just share my quick thoughts and then, I'll jump in. Well, Ricardo, you could jump in and then we'll go into Tracy, right? So for me, right, while I was watching this movie, yes, I was reminded of Doctor Strangelove, right? I mean, I'm a Kubrick fan. I love his movies. But I'll talk about Doctor Strangelove in a bit, right? But I was also reminded of another favorite, movie and satire of mine. That would be Network, right, from 1976, right? So the thing is with me with Doctor Strangelove, right? I'll confess something, right? I really don't know how to write satire, like great satire. I know what satire is, but I don't know how to write it, and I don't know how to make it funny, right? I can make it dark if you give me a story idea, and I could write it. I can make it dark, but I can't make it funny, right? But Doctor Strangelove managed to do that. And I'll confess, the first time I saw it, I didn't think it was funny. I just read it way too literal. I was just kind of watching things play out. Like, I was just watching events and not really getting the joke out of it, right? But then the second viewing I went in for the second time. I was like, oh, okay, that's where the joke comes from, right? Because it's the absurdity of it all and just how the characters react to it, right? Even though it's a life-threatening situation. That's where the joke came in, right? I was more thinking about like, why are we making fun of, a supposed Cold War? And then when I watch it again, it's like, oh, okay, now I get it, right? So there's a talent, there's a craft that goes into it, right? Network now, for example, this kind of plays thing a little straighter, right? It's not as absurd as Doctor Strangelove, right? But what it does really, like, quite brilliantly, and it was quite prophetic actually, is talk about, well, the influence of media, right? So, just showing just how far TV stations will go, sorry, TV networks will go to get ratings, right? Even going out of the way to kill people literally live, like on air, you know what I mean? While people are home, watching this thing, right? That's
Yeah.
literally how they end that film, and it's quite brilliant, right? So with this movie here, Don't Look Up, it was leaning towards a Doctor Strangelove kind of vibe. I felt like it was going more into network, right? Where it's like we trying to sell this thing. We're trying to make you believe that this shit can really happen, right? And this is why I think they brought in Ariana Grande and Kid Cudi. Like, okay, we need to show these influential musical figures and show how they react to the situation too, and all that kind of stuff now. And how social media wouldn't even care about that a meteor's coming to destroy the world. They more care about their relationship, blah blah blah, right? And well, okay, fine, right? And then also too, similar to Network, you have a lead character who ends up cheating on their wife with someone else, right? So that would be Leo's character cheating on his wife now with Kate Blanchett, right? Who would have thought, right? And it even goes to a point where similar to Network, well, the wife character of William Holden's character, right? She has this meltdown, right? And she has this big monologue where she's literally ripping Holden to sight, just ripping him apart, right? And she wins an Oscar for that. Just one scene, and she wins an Oscar for that, right? It's brilliant, right? They do something similar to it too with Melanie Linsky's character, but it just didn't have that weight. It just kind of felt like, oh, you're cheating with her, okay? All right, well, here's all these pills, and just keep throwing all these pill bottles, and that's the joke, right? Whatever, right? But yeah, though, and it even goes as far as doing because the one famous scene from Network is, let me get the name now. Peter Finch's iconic, performance where he does the "I'm as mad as hell, I'm not gonna take this anymore," right? Where he literally melts down, on air, right? Leo does the same thing, but it's more like, you people just not listening, and he even curses on air and all that kind of stuff. And like, I get it. I get all this kind of stuff, right? I get it. Here's the problem. None of it is funny, unfortunately. I'm just watching these characters, just playing everything straight, playing right down the middle. You have a little goofiness here or there, especially with Meryl Streep's character. And even before I forget, sorry, Mark Rylance, who I forgot was in this as well. Well, Ricardo, you could tell me what you thought about his character, because I felt personally like he just did nothing. He just came off like this kind of weird. Because basically he's like the tech billionaire in this whole shooter, so he's the Elon Musk in this whole situation, kind of. But just, I don't know, it was just something about the way how he acted, and his voice too just didn't work for me. They tried to do the little Oscar scene now where he rips apart Leo's character, but even there it didn't work for me because of how his voice was, and just how sheepish his character was, right? But yeah, I'm sorry. The problem with this movie here, like, so just to get the good out of the way, right? Everybody pretty much do what they're supposed to do, right? I mean, I had no issue with Jennifer Lawrence, had no issue with Leonardo DiCaprio, had no issue with anybody in this, right? I should say, if I have one person that really did piss me off though in the worst way, was Jonah Hill. Like, I felt like all of his jokes like fell flat. Because I know he's supposed to be the character who just kind of says what's on his mind though, but I felt like a majority of the time was just like you just coming off as way more annoying. Like how are you the chief of staff, bro? And you just coming with all these like just corny attempts at humor, right? Especially aimed at Jennifer Lawrence. It's just like, oh, there's an astronomy group in Michigan. I can't even believe that. And that's supposed to be funny. I don't even know, right? But anyway, yeah, where the show really falls apart though is the humor. I'm sorry. Like, I know we're supposed to laugh at the absurdity of it. Like, I get it. I get where Adam McKay is going with this, right? And yes, the things that he touches on, social media, how we respond to, to situations like this. I get it. Even the ending, I get it, right? I get the dark humor and all of it, right? The outro, you could have just left that out the way that outro made no sense to me. Nothing about it worked. Nothing about it was funny, right? But yeah, it just was not funny. All these jokes that they just tried to throw in there just fell flat. I'm sorry, right? And I think just before I wrap up here, I think but I felt like if you had comedic actors in it who know comedic timing very well, then you would have had a much better film actually, right? A much more compelling and effective film. Sorry. And last thing I'll say though, as much as I wanted to care about the situation, as much as I wanted to care about the characters, I just couldn't. I saw the end coming a mile away. The end happens. There's a few moments of attempts basically by Mark Rylance' character to try to stop the situation, and they don't work. But it makes no sense to me. Ricardo, you could touch on that. Why they don't work? They just pull off a plan, and all of a sudden, it doesn't work because fuck you, the show. That's why. And it's just like, well, why do you know what I mean? But the last thing worked, which you see in the outro, and how that plays off didn't really make any sense to me neither. So yeah, as a whole, not saying I'm an expert when it comes to satire and whatnot, boy, but this was clearly Adam McKay trying to do Network, trying to do Doctor Strangelove, right? But I just felt like the humor itself was just severely lacking. He just needed to punch it up a little bit more. If that and bringing comedic actors who could sell it. Sorry, like Leo's a great actor, but he's no comedian. J-Law's a great actor, but she's not funny. Sorry, it just didn't work for me, right? Ricardo, agree or disagree?
Yeah, so I mostly agree with what you had to say, right? Here the problem with this right? It have the Anchorman 2 problem, where, so I'm a big fan of Anchorman 1. It still largely holds up for me. Most of it is funny to me.
I love it too. Is the type of humor and how they make it work like that is the type of humor that would piss people off, but because you have comedic actors playing them well, it's funny as hell, right?
Right, and the problem with this is that it has the Anchorman 2 problem. I really didn't care for Anchorman 2. Like, I didn't absolutely hate it or anything like that, but it was like...
I skipped that movie,
But I was like so underwhelmed with it, and one of the big problems it had with it is that it have this whole, I don't know when this started, but it probably started a while now, where you have a whole generation of actors who just kind of want to be in on the joke. And it have too many actors who want to be in on the joke and want to be funny. And trying to be funny, but like they're trying to play it where they just want to avoid being the butter joke. So Kid Cudi and Ariana Grande or whoever she was, that's Ariana Grande, right?
Yeah, it's right. Like, yeah.
Right. The two of them supposed to be like, they had this bit and they're doing a bit for however long. I was like, dude, cut this bullshit now. Like, none of this
Thank you. And even had the poor girl do this song, and I get it. Lyrically, it's supposed to be funny. Ha ha ha. She's talking about the comment. Ha ha. But not funny. Not funny.
And they're trying to rely on. Here's the problem. They're trying to rely on layers of irony, and layers of irony, which is fine. Problem is that you have to still have the beats and the jokes stick on the level that matters. And none of that happens. So it's just a set of layers of irony and no actual like payoff to the material. And that's the whole problem with the whole thing. The entire thing is irony poisoned. There's a term called irony poisoning, which is you're relying on the irony concept and you have no actual like meaning or conceit behind it. And that's the main problem I have with it, right? It's just, look how detached we are. And look how we should care, but not really. And look how it's just none of it sticking, and none of it works. And then again, everything is one of these because of the nature of irony. Anything that you question, you could say, well, no, that was meant to be ironic too, and that was meant to be ironic too. So like the ending is incredibly stupid. Nothing about the ending makes sense.
Yes.
However,
it's stupid.
Yeah, it's very stupid. However, you could say, well, that's really an interpretation of blah 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 because blah blah blah. And and somebody might use the word PMC or something like that, right? And none of it works, right? I learned that it was written by David Sirota, and I was like, yeah, that makes perfect sense because that's a total David Sirota type script, and I don't feel it. Like, especially Leo. Leo is a person who could be funny, maybe, but again, more pretty people in a role that shouldn't really work. I felt what we should have done is. If this was cast by relative unknowns, it could have probably stick. Because the whole thing does feel like a big SNL sketch hosted by the worst host ever, i.e. Elon Musk. Like, it's that.
Oh, by the way, folks, that Elon Musk episode will go down as one of the weirdest
it's just nonsense.
episodes this year, mate.
Yeah, and it's just it's such a contrivance. That's one of the problems with a lot of humor. If humor is too contrived, you immediately like recognize it for its fakeness now. It's supposed to be making fun of something, especially with the whole punch up humor dimension of it. But none of it works because everybody who's supposedly punching up are themselves already punching up. They're already up. Like what they're punching up at. Like none of it is working as a social dynamic of it now. So the mechanisms are there, but they should have gotten like if it got a different class, a different set of people, it could have worked. I don't know. That's just my two cents on that. Quick rating, 5 out of 10. I didn't love almost any of it. In fact, thinking about it more like a 4 out of 10, closer to a 3. It's well made, I suppose, and again, it works as a kind of sci-fi conceit in its own way, and it has some moments I liked, but that was about it. I kind of hated this, to be honest.
Yeah, well, for me, rating-wise, I'm gonna go with a very light 2.5 out of 5. See it if you want to. You might find it to be hilarious. I didn't find it to be so at all. I get what they're trying to do, you know what I mean, thematically, but I don't know, it just, as you see, just more about irony. Like, oh, look at the irony of this, look at the irony of that, instead of actually telling us a compelling story with compelling characters. I will say though, I do like Timothée Chalamet's inclusion in this. Like I thought his character worked for the time. I
was totally taken out of it from him. No, I liked him in the Wes Anderson film the other day. He more fit in something like that.
Oh, Francis Patch, yes.
Right, but in this, he didn't work at all because again, it's like, what am I laughing at? He too popular, so I can't laugh at anything now. I don't know. Somebody else also
well, I think more the joke is just how he plays against character. I think that was kind of funny.
Yeah, that was the SNL sketch.
But like, I feel like non-comedic actors playing comedy, you need a director with like solid comedy chops, which apparently doesn't include any of these people, even any of like these comedy directors turned serious filmmakers. Because like, I was thinking about how Leonardo DiCaprio, the funniest I ever saw him was in Django Unchained. Because
yes,
because he plays a
man who you're supposed to hate his character, like really detest him. He was hilarious.
Right, he plays a really menacing villain, but like all of the racists in Django Unchained, which is part of what makes that movie amazing, he's self-defeating in his own idiocy, and like that becomes something funny even in those scenes when he's incredibly menacing, and like. And I like that was one of the other things. Like I watched the trailer, and there are so many like serious actors, and like none of them, they all feel like I feel like if they're not directed properly, serious actors playing comedy are kind of told mug or like wink a lot. Like that's how you're funny, right? And then and I feel like that's whereas like a comedy actor, like a comedy actor understands, even if they're not being directed well, they have the innate instinct. Like I was thinking about Peter Sellers in Doctor Strangelove plays like what 5 different roles, or is it like 4?
Three actually.
Different characters, and he plays each one of them so he plays each one of them so distinct. And like in that case, like Doctor Strangelove is brilliant because like even as serious as the situation is, it's the characters and their reactions to the serious situation that's where the comedy comes from. But like watching the trailer for Don't Look Up, a lot of it feels like the comedy is coming from a cataclysmic situation with serious actors winking at the camera because of the whole irony thing you're talking about. And that's why I was like, I think, and like I definitely, unless I don't know, Tracy has a dissenting opinion and has like a really solid pitch for why this is a movie worth seeing, this still feels like one I'm going to skip more than anything else.
Yeah, so that's 2 things before we get to Tracy. And don't worry, stick to your view. It's just our opinions, right? So Adam McKay thought he was slick trying to incorporate some, Doctor Strangelove-esque titles, right? In the film. Like I saw what you did there, Adam. I saw you. You're not fooling me. I know it's Doctor Strangelove you're paying homage to. I see you, right? Think you're slick. Anyway, and also, well, before we get to Tracy, Ricardo, just honest opinion without spoiling anything. What were your quick thoughts on, Mark Rylance's character, the Peter Isherwell, and all these attempts he had at trying to stop the meteor, right?
No, that's the whole point. Again, I got this. So again, I don't know if it was spoiler, but again, that was quote unquote always intended. Like that was the intention all the time. And again, you could say again to me, the irony poisoning of the conceit is what kind of would ruin that because well, did he really care or not? And it doesn't matter. And because
Right.
the characters also have a kind of shorthand of neurodivergence, so they're playing on that as a joke, I suppose. That's
Yeah.
supposed to be funny.
Well, no, not so much the true, but the attempts are talking about. Like, remember, he has all this technology, and remember when Leo's character was like, "No, this won't work," or "How you know it's gonna work?" And,
that's the joke. The
Right.
joke is that's the joke. The joke is well, he never cared in the first place. Like it's irony poison. It's supposed to work, but he actually never cared to solve it. That's the whole point. Like they had the final plan was the real plan. That's all I'll say. They're doing the Interstellar.
Right. I got you. Yeah.
Right. That's
Yeah,
that's how I read that. That's how I read
Yeah,
that.
they did that Interstellar thing. Yeah, you're right.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Whatever.
Yeah.
I already said
Alright.
the piece. So
Yeah. So Tracy, please tell us how wrong we are. Please.
Listen, this year's tool has been too long, and I've ranted too much. I don't have time. What I will instead say, I went into this movie. I will agree with you guys in terms of the ending. I didn't need the post-credit scene. There is a post-credit scene. I didn't need the post-credit scene, and I didn't need where they eventually took it with the rocket ship and all that kind of shit. I felt like it could have ended with the credits and the Earth being what it is. What I do feel, though, is that, the Glasgow Climate Change Summit thing just ended, and we got a whole bunch of nothing. Nobody made any kind of real headway as it stands, if I'm not mistaken. I think, what was it? Is it India and China has decided that they're going to phase down coal, so they're not really doing anything of interest. And then America is still being, the US of A and being ridiculous. So climate change continues to be this thing that is every day bearing down upon us. And we are still stuck within this notion of vacuous like a real vacuous mentality where, it's who is going to be the next who's going to be the next winner on Dancing with Stars, or who is going to who are we watching, whose relationships are we watching seeing dissolve and reappear.
I get all of that.
So that's the thing. So like for me, when I was watching it, like a friend of mine, I was talking to her afterwards, and she was like, what this felt like was like watching a type of documentary. And for me, that was kind of how it was. I didn't go into it thinking this was going to be the most humorous thing or a humor type of something. But I looked at it and I was like, this is legitimately where we are as a human race right now. He had started, McKay said that he had started this in 2019 before COVID and all that shit, because he wanted to do something about climate change and how people react to it and that kind of stuff. And so he used the idea of the comet as the conceit in order to say, well, okay, if a comet was really and truly, because, a comet coming to destroy the Earth is like a 1 in how much of a million probability, but the idea of the sun heating up the Earth and we living on a planet that is slowly disintegrating before our very eyes, that is a little bit more important. And seeing how everyone from the politicians, by the way, Jonah is basically Eric Trump. So for me, I was like, That's Eric Trump right there. Yeah. And by extension, if we were to go down that road, we can say that President Orlean is Marjorie Taylor Greene if she ever got into public office. I'm sorry, that is legitimately how I suspect Marjorie Taylor Greene would be if she got there. But I looked at it and I saw shades of where we are as a society and as a people. There is a line that I chuckle a lot about coming out of this film. Well, there's two lines. One of them is when the president finally decides that it is to her best interest to take this comet seriously. And she does her whole speech in front of it, and she says, may Jesus Christ bless, I'm paraphrasing here, but she's saying, may Jesus Christ bless everyone, including the, but more so the members of my own party, and may God have mercy on us all, because we will prevail. And I sat down and I listened to this, and I was like, I have heard local politicians say and and use that same religious rhetoric in order to facilitate their own goals. And I have seen the U.S. politicians use this same religious rhetoric in order to facilitate their own goals. It is legitimately just like watching a variation of a documentary. So for me, I mean, like if I'm being really honest, up to, I don't know, must be about 10 o'clock this morning because it was a slow work day. I kind of sat down with mom and watched it over again. So I had fun with it. I liked it. There's a line that they say in there that, you know, when Leo starts going completely nuts, so that says, not everything has to be, you know, when he's on the talk show and he's saying not everything has to be pleasant or has to feel good, because the thing with the talk show hosts is that they take every piece of information and take all the negative in the information and try to turn it into some kind of light, make everybody laugh, ha, ha, ha. And that's legitimately, I feel, where we are as a species. And so for me watching this, you know, there were parts in it where I looked at it and I was like, I got really friggin' annoyed because that is what is happening right now. I don't need to have billionaires, you know, let's be real about what it is, in a penis rocket flying to the blasted out of the atmosphere to say they're doing this for society or whatever, and they're not. They're doing this for their own ego, which is where the bash guy for me comes in, because like you know, there's a bit in there where certain metals on the comet can actually, you know, make the U.S. Rich and wealthy, and they package it in this whole thing about getting rid of world hunger and biodiversity and all that kind of assery. And I'm like, if that was to really happen, if we could, because, you know, you hear reports about people wanting to put billboards in space or some variation of it, and it's like, what are they doing? If that was to really happen, 100%. That course of action of trying to mine the comet in order so that we can have minerals, or at least one superpower can have minerals, that feels on point. I didn't really come into it really thinking it was going to be a comedy. I get you guys with the Dr. Strangelove hilarity, and I would even throw in Charlie Brooker, how Charlie Brooker does like Black Mirror and even the Death 2 series, Death to 2020 and Death to 2021, how he does that. That has a little bit more seriousness, but the humor in it is elevated. And you're not going to get that there. But I still found it to be an enjoyable look at where we are right now as a people, dealing with climate change, dealing with politics, dealing with the absolute sheer ridiculousness of not taking something seriously until it suddenly becomes either too big for us to deal with, or it suddenly becomes something that we need to tackle because we want to divert from something else. Like the president realizing that she's going to lose the midterms, so now it becomes a scene to let's figure out how the comet works. I had fun. I had fun with it. That's a lot of babble to say. I basically had a lot of fun with it. And I could see the Trumpisms like loud and clear with it. Adam says he wanted to, one of the things Adam says he wanted to do was to try and make a film about climate change, but he didn't know how he was going to do it. And then having a discussion with a friend of his where they were talking about the idea of, it's like if a comet was coming to the planet and nobody wanted to take that idea seriously, and here's where we are. And that gave him the spark to kind of play it out. But yeah, I had fun. If I were to give it a rating, I would give it a 7. Bill, Matthew, you've been seeing me, you know, going on about it. So I would give it a 7 or 8 out of 10. It was a fun movie to watch, and I liked it.
All right. Well, you know, to be honest, I actually would see myself watching this again. I would like to see how it holds up in the years to come as well, particularly in this decade, right? If the topics or messages being brought up here, how they will resonate going forward.